to Joe Burrow, Joey B. Now what? It's not going to look the same.
Those are two expensive cars with no one to drive them.
And I get it. They're really good. And Zach, you said you pounded the table. Hey, T. Higgins is the number one receiver somewhere else. Well, Cincy thought the same way. And that's why they paid the man the money that they did. And then, of course, Jamar Chase, the best receiver in the game right now.
One of.
But he's probably number one, followed up by Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I'd still Jamar Chase had the insane year, but sample size-wise, I would probably still go with Justin Jefferson, probably. Would you go Jamar? There's no wrong answer.
No, I probably would go – I'm going to go Jamar Chase. And both of those players, by the way, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, on the same team in college.
Which is just psychotic.
With Joe Burrow.
With Derek Stingley.
Who
just reset the corner market
what are we
this morning.
doing?
It's arguably, like we said, the greatest single college football team of all time. And I think the best resume with the teams that they beat, by the way. I'll still go with Justin Jefferson. I think it's the best start to I know it's the best start to a career.
Oh, he's a bad man now.
The dude walked in the league with 1,400 yards as a rookie. 1,400 as a rook.
He created the gritty that everybody dances
Yes.
to. But you over here still trying. Oh, there you go.
My son does it in flag football.
Oh, after he scores a touchdown.
Yes. But Justin Jefferson started his career with 1,400 yards. It went to over 1,600 yards. Then it went to over 1,800 yards.
Yeah, the man's insane.
He was a 1,000-yard guy, and he only played 10 games in 2023. And then this year he was once again over 1,500, which is just – it's insane. He's got 7,000 career receiving yards, and he's been in the league for 5 years.
Hey, he's a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
You are not kidding. But that aside.
Yeah.
So you have Jamar Chase agreeing to a 4-year, $160 million contract. 112 of it is guaranteed. Higgins simultaneously agrees to a 4-year, $115 million deal that is guaranteed for the first 2 years of the contract. We're still waiting for the fully guaranteed amount on that deal. Chase's deal has an annual average value of just over $40 million per season, Phil. That's a new NFL record for highest average annual salary for a non-quarterback. Higgins is going to be, I think his number is up around $28 million a year.
I'm making money, man.
You are not kidding, but I will say, man, I don't think this is going to work.
No?
I do not like this for Cincinnati. I like it for a team like Denver. I like it for a team like Baltimore. I like it for a team like Buffalo.
Yeah.
I like it for a team like Kansas City. I just do not believe, and this is why we've gotten to some of our arguments about wide receivers and who you're going to pay and this and that, and I didn't want to pay Sutton and Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't believe that's the best way to build a football team. They have one of the...
You're scarred. You're scarred because we had one of the highest paid receiving rooms here a couple years ago that didn't pan out. Maybe that's why you're scarred.
Yes, that had an impact for sure, but just philosophically and fundamentally, it's the opposite of what I believe. I believe trenches first, and you build out from there.
For sure.
To pay two skill position players who play the same position. This is not like the Niners paying Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey. This is two wide receivers. They're both excellent, but ultimately, I think this will age very poorly for Cincinnati. They couldn't get stops. They need to rebuild that defense.
Yeah.
They need more than just receiver help. You had these guys and we're in a playoff team. So you're doubling down on it? Philosophically, I don't like it. And I think at a team like Denver, not that they need like a lesson, but I think it's important to follow how this ages because my internal instincts say that this is going to age poorly.
Well, why do you want the Denver Broncos to follow what the Bengals are doing? Because I don't believe the Denver Broncos would ever do that. I believe that as much as Sean is a offensive coordinator, what this showed me this year, this free agency market, they went big on defensive players because, like you said, it's all about defense in the trenches, whether it's offensively or defensively when it comes to the linemen, and then shoring up the defense because it only helps your offense out. I do agree with you. Why pay two receivers on the same side of the ball so much money when your defense struggled mightily last year? Like I don't understand that when defense wins championships in my eyes.
Do you think Joe Burrow's a top 5 quarterback?
I do.
So do I.
I do.
I think he's one of the coldest
He might
dudes
not be
around.
number 5.
And I don't think he is. and if you wanted to make an argument, you thought he was the second best in the NFL after only Mahomes, I could hear that argument, truly.
Yeah.
But this is why I think it's important to watch for Denver. If you believe Joe Burrow's a top 5 quarterback in the sport, the opposite of what you do is pay the 2 receivers. You know what these 2 players are going to average annually per year here moving forward? $69 million.
Just 2 guys.
Just 2 guys. When the guy who's the most important has the ability to elevate others who are not 10 out of 10s.
Well, see, this is the question, though, right? For Joe Burrow. When Joe Burrow's with the LSU Tigers, he had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Also at running back, Clyde Hilaire.
Yeah.
And he had Stingley as a defensive cornerback.
Yeah, they had dudes everywhere.
And then you had Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow has always been stacked with talented receivers. So I don't want to take anything from Joey B, but also Joey B has had the luxury of having elite talent around him. There's other quarterbacks that don't have that opportunity like Joe Burrow has had, from college to the NFL, and maybe that's what they're thinking is like, we do think you're a top 5, but why take away the weapons that are making you top 3?
Because you got to build a roster.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say. And honestly, and I swear, I'm not trying to be mean-spirited if we got Bengals fans listening. I think this is why they're Cincinnati. I really do. This is why they're Cincinnati. Because someone like Chris McFarland would look at the Bengals and say, I love you, T. Higgins, but this isn't going to be good enough to win big. It's just not going to be good enough. And we can take that $28 million a year and we could turn that into 2 defensive starters, 2 frontline defensive starters, a member of the offensive, what have you. And what I'm seeing Cincinnati do is the opposite of the decision that Chris McFarland made with Miko. It's like, we love you. Your numbers are amazing, but we cannot tie 60% of our payroll into soon-to-be Cale McCarr, currently Nathan McKinnon, and Miko in that scenario and build out a championship roster. So, and honestly, and I'm not trying to be like a funny guy here today because I'm going to make a Buffalo Bills reference. Look at the way that Buffalo operated coming into this year and how different it is from the way that Cincinnati.
Don't you dare say nobody's.
Where you say, coming into this past year, who was talking about Khalil Shakir? The answer is no one. Keon Coleman, 2nd round experiment. Mac Hollins. Anyone could have Mac Hollins.
Hey, I like Mac.
I know you do.
Mac attack.
But like,
tough dude.
It was like, who was talking about like these collection of 3 of their top
nobody is talking about him. Nobody's putting him on their fantasy team and saying, hey,
correct,
they're going to elevate my fantasy team. Like, these are the guys. Like, no, nobody's doing that.
But it's a bet on a top 5 quarterback to elevate others, creating guys that from 6 and 7s, making them 9s and 10s. They didn't have a 900-yard receiver on the Bills. Josh wins MVP. And you're able to build out the rest of the roster in a way that Cincinnati missed the damn playoffs with these guys that they're paying. And I think if you're...
Well, to be fair, though, T. Higgins was hurt for 5 or 6 games.
He was.
Joey B threw for over 4,000 yards.
He
would have won the MVP.
5,000.
Yeah, over 5,000. He would have won the MVP if they would have went to the playoffs. And they had a bunch of people that are still on the roster today, Zach, with the Bengals, that were hurt. So maybe that's what they're thinking. It's like, hey, we get healthy on the defensive side with the young players that we did acquire from the draft. We pay T. Higgins, who, by the way, would have went for 1,000 yards if he didn't get hurt. And you pay Jamar Chase to go with Joe Burrow. And maybe that's what I'm just trying to think what they're thinking.
Sure.
Everybody has a certain way of thinking, and that's the beauty of the NFL. This is not like, hey, it's a copycat league, but it's not. Somebody has to think outside the box. We can't all just think the same. That's not how you win. And so maybe the Bengals are doing it differently, where it's like, we're going to have a high-powered offense, and we're going to stay on the field. And we're going to keep Denver off the field so that someone like Bo Nix does not get going. He doesn't get the momentum going because he's just sitting there cold. Maybe that's what they're thinking.
Maybe. But from a Broncos perspective, I think now would be the time not to make a move like this. This is extreme. We've never seen anything like this in NFL history. But if you're the Broncos and you have Bo Nix on a rookie contract, I think it's more important now to get bona fide pieces around Bo, then it will be in 3, 4, 5 years where hopefully he continues to ascend and he's a top 10 quarterback who's elevating guys.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I look at the Broncos wide receiver room currently, and I think it's just okay. I just think it's okay.
Mr. Bye, we're talking about a receiver room that when the season first started, when you were at camp, there were a bunch of nobodies. Truly. Nobody knew about Bailey. Nobody knew about Troy Franklin. We all knew about Cortland Sutton, but he was still dealing. He was inconsistent. We were like, hey, Cortland Sutton's not going to get better. Nobody really knew about Marvin Mims because even in camp, Marvin Mims wasn't showing out like that.
No, he wasn't.
And we were sitting here believing what the experts said was the worst roster in the NFL when it came to the offensive side of the football.
Yeah.
And look what they did. They went out there. Vele solidified himself as a solid target. Now, if he wants to be receiver 2, he has to do it again.
But we're talking about a guy who didn't get to 500 yards.
But also he was hurt for a couple games.
He missed 3 games. He was good. He's good. But
Marvin Mims didn't get going until week 10.
Week 10. He finished with 500 yards. I just continue to think that, like, if the Broncos are going to be a bona fide NFL contender this year, after Cortland Sutton, it's too much of a mystery for me who's going to be the second leading wide receiver.
So you still want to go out there and get somebody?
Yes.
All right, well, I'm all ears. I'm all ears. Who?
Keenan Allen.
But he's going to want a lot of money.
He's not going to get a lot of money.
Don't get me wrong, I'm begging the table for Keenan Allen too. But, like,
I just think you need
Cooper
more
Kupp got a lot of money.
He did. I did not see that coming. And maybe Keenan Allen signs for a number that I don't see coming as well. So I was stunned last week. Maybe I'll be stunned again if Keenan Allen gets 3 years, $45 million like Cooper Kupp did. If he does, I'll just be dead wrong. But I think you can get Keenan Allen for way cheaper, and he's more of a known. His reliability rating, I always say this, if he's an Uber driver and Keenan Allen is coming to pick me up, man, I know I'm getting to my flight on time. If Marvin Mims is coming to pick me up, I might need a second option. I might be texting you, hey, if this guy doesn't come, can you shoot over here and bring me to the airport?
But that's not Marvin Mims' fault. That is Sean not getting Marvin Mims going the first 10 games of the season, the first 9 games of the season. Marvin Mims has proven to us year after year.
He's been for 2 years.
First year, he was explosive.
He was. He had a good game.
Had a couple good games, but Sean did not utilize him. Why? Jerry Jeudy was sitting there. Cortland Sutton won his targets. The reason why we moved on from Jerry Jeudy was supposedly because we were going to get Marvin Mims going and get him more involved early.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case this year until week 10. When we finally got him going, he was probably one of the best players on our team.
Oh, for sure. But do you see Mims as like an every down, series in, series out, every down receiver? Because I don't. I think he's part of packages and personnel groupings, and he is a sensational talent.
Hands down.
But as like a bona fide number 2, I can't sit here and say that.
Well, I thought that was your boy Vele. This is Vele's time, his opportunity to show us and show all of us, the 7th round draft pick, that he's a bona fide number 2 receiver.
I would bet on that to happen, but I still don't know. It's still a bet. It's still like a wager. Would you feel comfortable going into the season?
You know what?
With this collection of guys?
After sitting down, right? I think that we're starting to we're overthinking things. And 2, we're so excited and we're thinking about a Super Bowl right away or making noise in the playoffs. But this team.
But that's Sean. That Sean says we're going to be a problem. That Sean said if we got past Buffalo, we felt great about Kansas City.
But then Sean did what he needed to do right now. Be aggressive. 2 defensive players, solid starters, a tight end, which we haven't had here in a long time since Julius Thomas.
Yeah, one like this, yeah.
We're going to get a running back in the draft and maybe a receiver. But, like, are we pressing for a big name or a name guy just because?
No, I don't think we're pressing. I think we're discussing it because these are just, although we have liked some of the stuff that we have seen. Look, if you want to go into 2025 like as
Zach, are we supposed to win the Super Bowl this year?
No.
So why are we going at it like we're supposed to win the Super Bowl, like we're like the Chiefs and we're on a 3-peat?
Because you're not listening to other people tell you who you're supposed to be. If you're trying to build a contender, it would be unsettling for me if Marvin Mims was your number 2. It would be unsettling to me if Troy Franklin was your number 2.
Why can't they be good enough, though? Why can't Vele do? Why can't
maybe
we
they
let them
can.
develop?
I'm saying maybe they can, but I don't know that. Like Sutton's a known. Sutton is a no.
Okay, but so Keenan Allen comes in. Do we know that he's going to be the same Keenan Allen he was 3 years ago? Like, we're rolling the dice.
No. You're getting Keenan Allen right now he's a known. That's why he's not a number 1 anymore. But he's like a legitimate number 2. You can play him inside at the slot. If you needed him to play outside, he can still kind of do that,
and
too.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to have Keenan Allen. I would.
Are you sure?
No, I would. But I think we're getting greedy here. I think that
greedy.
I think that.
I want to add a veteran.
We did. We added it to the tight end room. We added that joker. We have Cortland Sutton that went over 1,000 yards, 81 receptions, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he didn't get targeted in the first 2 or 3 games. I know for sure he didn't get 1 target against the Saints.
He did not.
So what does that look like if we would have got Cortland Sutton involved early? If Bo Nix would have looked like he did at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year? Right, I think that we need to start understanding, like, Vele, this is his time to grow.
So who's wide receiver number 2?
Vele.
So you're on the Vele
I'm
train.
Going to be
Welcome
one a day, Vele.
Welcome on board.
Vele mixed in with Marvin Mims. We are going to get Marvin Mims involved early this year. Sean is not making the same mistake a third time.
But how you just answered that question is kind of like what I'm after here. You say Vele.
Yeah.
Mixed in with Marvin Mims. They don't have a bona fide number 2, Phil. The guy who came out of your mouth first, which would be mine, went for 400 yards.
Because he's young. He's a baby. Let him develop.
So
let's
you're
see what
okay
he got.
with going with
Zach,
young guys?
We were not supposed to win 10 games this year. We did. And now everybody's expecting us to win 11 or 12 with a bunch of players that are young and hungry, which is dangerous. But we didn't expect this. Now that we did win the 10 games, we did get to the playoffs. Now everybody's expecting us to get back to the playoffs and win, which I am too. But I'm not willing to give everything I got and throw it all in on this year when you're going to have more money next year. See what these players can do. See what Vele can do. Marvin Mims with a full season, what he can do. Can both of those guys end up being bona fide starters that you can rely on every single game this year? That's what I want to see. If you put someone like Keenan Allen, which I would be okay with, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but if we don't get him, I'm not going to be upset either. You put someone like Keenan Allen, who's 32 years old, stuck in his ways, is going to do what he wants to do. Maybe he brings something, maybe he doesn't if he's healthy.
Well, you wouldn't bring him in unless you were convinced he'd be a fit, right? Like,
yeah.
But you're going through it and you're like, let's see if he can do this. Let's see if he can do it.
We upgraded our defense, Zach.
And I understand that.
We upgraded our tight end room.
I understand, but what you're saying is you're speaking to the mystery of it. When I say, who's the number 2, and you give me 2 guys, and you say, let's see if they can, and what I'm saying is these guys are all going to get opportunities, and I'm open to what it could look like. But if you plan on competing the way that Sean plans on competing at the highest level of the sport, it just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable that there's not more of a known opposite of Sutton. Because if the season started today, we don't know who it would be.
It'd be Vele. It'd be Marvin Mims.
I think Sean wants it to be Troy Franklin.
And it could be Troy Franklin if he makes that leap. Now, I'm not ready to put my money on Troy, but I'm ready to be wrong about Troy.
Oh, sure.
I'm ready for Troy to go out there and have a great year.
We're talking about a guy who didn't get to 300
No,
yards.
I agree. That's why I said Vele. Mixed in with Marvin Mims. Mixed in with Cortland. Mixed in with this team being together for another year. Oh, and bring Evan Ingram into it.
Yeah.
Which is going to take a lot of pressure off of Vele, Mims, in Cortland.
Well, it's not going to stun me if Sean goes the route that you're pounding the table for here. In that, because when he was with Kay Adams, and I know you guys remember this, she's like, you need a receiver. When she was interrupting him 13, 14 times when he was trying to talk. She's like, you need a receiver. And he's like, can I talk here?
Simmer down.
He said to her, I think we're better off at that position than a lot of people think.
And the last time he said that?
And that's based off the projection in his head, not the substance that we can draw from the season. So if he wanted to go that route, there would be some level of trust because Sean's got a decent track record when it comes to calling his shot. He does, right?
Look, I'm all for adding another talented receiver. Like more weapons. You know I'm all about
You better
that.
not be excited if they add Keenan Allen.
Oh, no, I better not. He's taking away from your boy Vele.
No, he's not taking away. The way that Sean does these positional groups, and it's the same idea with Cooper Kupp. It's like, you're not playing this guy every snap. He is 30. What did you say? He's 32, Keenan Allen?
Yep.
He is 32. You're going to narrow that role so you get the best out of him the same sort of way that I thought Cooper, but they're paying him like a number 2 that he's going to be out there for every play.
But don't think Keenan Allen's not looking at Cooper Kupp's contract saying, I want the same thing. Like we sit here and say these guys are willing to take whatever. That's not the case, especially when you already have all the money. and you and the ball is in your court, and you see someone like Cooper Kupp that I feel like Keenan Allen is a better route runner, and honestly, not necessarily better than, but he brings more juice right now than Cooper Kupp. He's going to want the same contract, maybe a little less, maybe even a little more. I don't think he's going to get more.
Yeah, I'd be stunned.
But he's going to want something like Cooper Kupp. Are the Denver Broncos willing to do that? Or is Sean going to say, you know what, let's hold off. Let's see what Bailey can do. Let's see what Marvin Mims could do when I give him an increased role right away. Troy Franklin needs to take that next step. Let's see what these young players can do because we drafted them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
I don't believe that they're going to go and get Keenan Allen, although I would want him. I don't believe it's going to happen, Zach. I think that Sean is going to stay put, and he's going to add a running back in the draft, maybe a receiver in the draft.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think you're right. At the end of the day, I hope they do. I hope they do because I think that'd be if you plan to compete
you don't
at
like
the
Bailey.
high. If you, no, of course
you
I do.
Like
I'm on the ground floor of that puppy. I'm on the ground floor.
You were until you just made that comment that you hope that they bring somebody in so Bailey doesn't get playing time.
All these guys are getting reps. And if there's anyone to pull it off, it'll be Sean. Look, we're not talking about who is going to play more, Jerry Rice, Andre Reed, or Randy Moss. It's Marvin Mims Jr., Devon Vele, and Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
Neither of them got to 504 yards. So,
but it's their first year. Usually in the NFL, year one and year two, there's a major jump. And that's why we talked about Troy Franklin that one day.
Yes, we did. And we said, don't sell your stock on Troy Franklin. You look at the start of a career
you sold your stock on Vele and Troy and Marvin Mims.
Dude, I have not sold a share of Vele stock. But when it comes to a bona fide known, so we'll see.
How do you become a bona fide known?
You max out your opportunities.
But you have to get the opportunities, correct?
Yes.
Leave Bailey alone. Let him get the opportunities,
Phil,
Zach, so he can be a bona fide number two.
This is not about who Devon Vele isn't. I just don't have enough information.
But you know what? Sit that ass down, relax, get you a beer, watch the games, let Vele, let Troy Franklin do their job, and then we could come back here if they're not doing job and say, hey, you're right, Zach. We need a number two. But give them that opportunity.
Well, I hope you're not in the middle of a playoff race and you don't have a reliable number two. Again, the
you're
premise
be
was
in a playoff race.
The premise was if you plan on competing at the highest level. If you're kind of
we didn't talk about a number two receiver in the playoffs though, Zach. We talked about a tight end and we talked about a running back. So if we have the tight end in here, we get the running back in here. We have a receiver one in Cortland Sutton. Yes, some people don't agree with that, but Cortland Sutton will be our receiver one.
He's a receiver one.
We're not looking at a receiver two now. Because you got the running back and the tight end.
Still think you need one.
We can
agree to disagree on that. I am getting greedy. If you want to compete at the highest level, I think it just need a little bit more. But we'll see. We'll see how it ages. There still can be signings, of course.
Yeah.
And we'll see what direction they